he's been in some of the biggest movies, Oscar nominated for 12 Years a Slave, and some of my favorite movies, Love Actually, Kinky Boots, the Doctor Strange movies. I'm talking with Chiwetel Ejiofor, who's now in front of and behind the camera in Rob Peace. So tell us what Rob Peace is about.
Thank you. Rob Peace is the story of a young man, Robert Deshaun Peace, who grew up in New Jersey. He was an absolutely brilliant individual, an amazing mind. He grew up in very impoverished circumstances, and his father was imprisoned for a double homicide in 1987. Well, he was actually imprisoned in 1990, but the crime was committed in 87. And that sort of gap actually between the crime and the incarceration is actually quite significant in the story. Rob became kind of obsessed, I think, with getting his father out of prison. It became a bit of an obsession. He was convinced his father was innocent, and that obsession, in some ways, derailed his life. He went to Yale in the meantime to do molecular biochemistry and biophysics, and was just an exceptional talent, a brilliant mind. The book was written by his roommate Jeff Hobbs, which is how I sort of first became aware of Rob Peace's remarkable story.
And you play his father, and Rob Peace is played by this star-in-the-making performance from Jay Will. How did you discover Jay Will and know, obviously knowing I've seen the movie, he is the one for the role. How did you know that he's your guy?
Well, I mean, I knew straight away. I'd seen Jay came out of the Juilliard school the COVID year. And so he was coming out of Juilliard, and there was no real showcases for him. And there was no real kind of way of him kind of really fully getting out there. But I was sent his one of his tapes, that they had online as his kind of end of year project, essentially. And I thought he was absolutely brilliant. He chose a scene from American Gangster, so I knew he had good taste. And he was, I thought he just had this brilliant charismatic quality, this really interesting, as well as being very clearly serious about the craft and just real detailed work. And so I was very excited to start talking to him about Rob Peace and doing kind of workshops with him. And it became very clear very, very quickly that he was, just a remarkable talent, and he's brilliant in the film. So I was extraordinarily thrilled with him.
Your chemistry in the role between you two is just incredible. How do you separate your acting in this movie, but then you also have to wear the hats of director and writer? How do you separate while you're on this project?
Well, it's complicated. It's a challenge, an exciting challenge. With something like this. I really wanted to try and bring all aspects of this to life. I was excited to play Skeet, obviously excited to adapt the book and to direct the film. And so just trying to keep that balance alive and finding ways, I think, of making it, turning it into an advantage, I think. My primary way of communicating is sometimes through the acting, through the work, And so being able to be in a scene is sometimes allows me to communicate certain things that I want to get out of the scene in a way that if I sort of sat down and tried to explain it, it wouldn't be necessarily as clear. And so sometimes it's kind of an advantage just to be able to be in the scene, to play the scene, to engage in it with other actors who are all incredibly intuitive, and that sort of dynamic is really helpful.
And these other actors, obviously, as the director and writer, you get to work with everyone on the set, including two of music's biggest names, Mary J. Blige and Camila Cabello. What is it like having them on a project like this?
Well, they're both amazing. Mary J. Blige was on the project right from the beginning. Obviously, she's a complete icon, and she, the project actually had to sort of basically shut down over the COVID period. We were in pre-production, and it kind of shut down for a couple of years, and she stayed with it all, and just was amazing on both sides of that. And Camille was just incredible. I just think she's one of the most charismatic people out there. Obviously an extraordinary musician, but she carries herself with such poise and grace. She's an amazing person. And so we were just thrilled that she loved the part of Naya and wanted to jump on board.
Yeah, as expected, always brilliant work from you. I can't wait for people to see Rob Peace in theater starting August 16th. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
This is one of those stories that it's such a tragic story. It's based on a true story, but it is a must watch so we can continue to have these conversations. I'm talking with Jay Will, who's the star of the new movie, Rob Peace. So thanks for chatting with me, and tell us what Rob Peace is about.
Rob Peace, in thematic language, is about family. It's a family film, a film that has more to do with what it takes to see your family on the up and up, the sacrifices that you'll make in your own life and the consequences that might come with it. In spite of it, I think it's a film about love.
Yeah, and you play the title character, so you get to interact with some of Hollywood's biggest names in this movie. Chiwetel Ejiofor, who also directed and wrote it, Mary J. Blige as your mother, Camila Cabello as girlfriend/love interest. What is it like being in this kind of movie with all of these major stars?
Very inspiring. You know, it boosted my game up just to see the ensemble that I'm with. You know, if I'm with these people, what does that make me? You know, I start to have these questions, and I you know, boost up my own inner life. You know, just creative, constantly innovating, constantly staying inspired.
Definitely. And you are the heart and soul of the film. You breakout role for you for sure. Great notices out of Sundance Film Festival. What's it like to get this positive reception ahead of the movie's release this coming up in a couple weeks?
For me, I just wanted to make sure Rob's family felt content with everything. Whatever else happens after that, you know, it's a product or a consequence of just the positive seeds that was put into it. But for me, if Jackie's happy, then I think I'm gonna be very happy.
And what were those conversations that you had like with his family to make sure this is authentically told?
Um, I went to New Jersey myself, and I knocked on the door, and I had asked just where are you with this? Where are you with the creation of this film? They told me, they let me know, and we spoke about his life, who he was, you know, how charismatic he was, always brought people around, just loved people, you know. And once we got past that, I asked gently if I could have the blessing to play the role. You know, it would mean a lot to me just to give accurate, honest, my most honest, hard-working interpretation of it. Most honest and most genuine. And that was the preliminary conversations that here we are today.
And looking at your background, it seems like you were just the perfect fit for this role. He, obviously, we see in the film, goes to Yale. You went to Juilliard. So you have this very distinguished background while going through these difficult things. What did you take from your past to translate into your role as Rob?
Being a fish out of water and going to a whole another ecosystem for me. It was tough in the beginning, but again, I knew what I had to bring back home. I knew that it was just a temporary circumstance, 4 years, get the knowledge here, go back home and start to sprout out. Rob, same way. He knew what his purpose was. He knew where he came from. He knew what he was. So he went to go to school, get the tools, and went back home. That was, I resonate with that. You know, I resonate with the rejection to elitism. I resonate, well, especially at that time in my life, for sure.
Very. And with Chiwetel Ejiofor, obviously he's acting alongside you as your father, but he's also, as I mentioned, the director, the writer of this amazing film. What's it like listening to his direction and writing on that side of the screen as opposed to the acting part?
Man, it's as a director, Chiwetel really digged and you know, we go further, go deeper. He always asks, what's the dilemma right now? You know, especially when things got general and I would, you know, maybe when I felt like there was nothing more to the line than just the line, he was like, no, what's the dilemma here? So he always pushed me to go further and push me to just deepen my own personalization of the character, deepen my own research with it, learn those words, man, those scientific words. It was tough, but through repetition, I found it all, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And this movie comes out August 15th or August 16th in theaters. I can't wait for people to see it. What do you want people to take after seeing this movie?
Oh man, just their own connections to family, you know, what they've already done to sacrifice, their sacrifices that they've made to get something bigger than them moving forward. You know, I think this whole film is just a bubble looking outside of itself, because the purpose that it's serving now is what I do think that Rob wanted for the world at that time.
Very much. It's a star of the making performance from Jay Will. I can't wait for people to see Rob Peace. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.